David is going to show us the casting of these munitions using the lost wax technique. We place the crucible with the lead ingots. Wax, which is a natural element, when it reaches a certain temperature, allows us to mold it and give it shape. Lead projectiles are much smaller than stone projectiles, but they have a similar weight, and since lead is denser, it allows for better aerodynamics and greater range with the same weight. Here we already have a projectile, and what we do is use several projectiles for the same mold. Now we take the clay and carefully cover everything to create the mold. We have it ready. Now we just have to wait for it to dry so we can fire it. Yes, we'll leave it in the sun for a while so it dries, then we'll bake it. We'll place it here so it gradually heats up. Wax melts at 90 degrees, it starts melting. As we can see, it smells a bit bad. And once it's melted, that's when we'll pour in the lead, which will need to be heated. Yes. Now we place the lead so it melts. And the melted lead is what we will pour into the mold. We can see it's melting. It's quite simple, really. It's just a fire and a bit of air to provide oxygen to the charcoal, which isn't too complicated either. One of the advantages of lead is precisely that, the speed at which it melts. So the next step is to pour it into the mold we have. Now we have to wait for it to cool. Well, now we understand that all the melted lead has filled the cavity left by the wax, and now we have to break this mold as they are single-use molds. We break it, and the two bullets come out perfectly. Of course, it still needs refining, so now we just cut it, and we have the two bullets. Now we need to remove all these imperfections. In this case, it happened because the clay was not pressed properly. And now we have two bullets over there. Yes, as soon as I separate them, we have one already. A projectile which can be filed down, or even hammered slightly. It can be shaped. Lead is so soft that it allows cold forging. And this one, well, we have to remove the sprue. Ammunition for slings is among the artifacts found in archaeological sites, which serves as evidence of its use in ancient times. Eugenio Monesma has traveled to Azaila to see how David Castillo crafts a simple rope sling and demonstrates its use. We'll need to take measurements. We must keep in mind that braiding shrinks the rope. So the length, more or less, I have calculated that with a certain measurement. This gives me roughly the sling size I like. So now we have it, and we cut it with a knife. We take out 3 strips. The first thing we need to do is take this end and make a hole so we can insert a finger and hold it. This is the end of the sling that doesn't get released. It always stays in the hand. To do that, we will start braiding in reverse, outward. We start braiding. It's just a simple braid. Yes, just like the ones made in hair. A typical Indian braid. Well, now we have this length, which is enough for the finger. So we pair up the strands. We pair them up and continue braiding. Now, of course, there will be a sudden change. So one way to avoid that abrupt transition is to gradually remove strands. We remove this one and continue with the rest. Now it's getting thinner, and after a little more braiding we can remove another strand, and we keep going until we have 3 left. This way, the transition isn't as abrupt. We cut this off, and we keep going. Now we have the 3 strands, and they are strong enough. With this braiding system, the more force you apply, the tighter it gets, preventing it from coming undone. Now we have 3 strands for the braid, but we need to make 2 braids, one on this side and one on the other. For that, we need to add 3 new strands. Now we just need 3 small strands like this. We prepare the 3 and continue braiding as before. This is just to hold the stone. If we wanted to make these strands thicker, we would just add more fibers. Now with these 3 strands, we continue weaving all the way to the end. Well, now we've reached the end of the braid. And now we need to make a knot. The knot we need to make is the one held in this hand for release. So it has to be the exact measurement. Right at half the distance from here to the pouch. It must be precisely measured. We check that it's correct. And here we tie a knot. We were lucky. It turned out just right. It's better to leave it longer so we can trim it later. Then we cut to the knot, but in this case it worked out perfectly. And now we have the sling. We take the projectiles and give it a test. I'll step back a little just in case. Now we have the part to hold the stone. We check that it doesn't slip out. And now the sling, which continued to be used in the Middle Ages as a projectile weapon, eventually became a tool for shepherds, allowing them to control their livestock at will. Shall we go? Let's go. Come on.